And our goal with this episode is for you to never order Uber Eats again.
Yeah, you are sexier than Uber Eats.
You're better than that.
You're better than Uber Eats. Why is sourcing food so important?
It's much more about the reframe than just like how it actually positions food as a priority in your life.
This has been one of our biggest unlocks ever. So I hope that everyone just digests this and really takes it into account. And if you do this for 30 days, you will fundamentally transform as a person.
Welcome back to another episode of the Meat Mafia Podcast. Brett Ender, how are we doing?
Harrison Gray, I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for hosting me.
Oh, got another episode here. Another Brett and Harry episode.
These are so much fun, man. The first episode was great, how to eat healthy. I think it was a great like macro level blueprint for just anyone looking to get their metabolic health kicked into gear. And we're going to follow this up with a great episode 2, which is how to source your food.
How to source food. Before we get into it, what's our caffeination level at right now?
I would say that I'm sitting here at probably 350 milligrams on the day.
Okay.
And it is 10:32 a.m. Central Time. I had a couple nice chameleon cold brews with raw cream prior to our men's group run. And you got me a nice little double espresso. A single espresso? Double. I think probably
There's
three.
no such thing as
I think
a
I'm probably
single espresso.
350 millis right now.
Where does that put
which
you
is
on
good.
a 0 to 10?
In terms of total caffeination for the day?
Yeah, like just if you had to say like, 10 is you've gone off the rails fully caffeinated.
I'm probably at a 5 right now.
Okay, good.
I think I've got a few more shots left in me.
Yeah. So if you're not at a 5 right now in terms of caffeination and you're listening to this, get to the 5.
If you're listening to this, take a double espresso in honor of us and get
Buckle
juiced up.
Just sit in your car. Buckle up. Yeah. We're about to get into it.
Any
Housekeeping.
Mafia updates, housekeeping updates for the beautiful listeners out there?
Yes, we have a little bit of housekeeping. So episodes released this week. We had AJ Nwosu.
Legend.
Unbelievable. I've like one of the conversations where you're just sitting there and you're like hearing things that you've never heard before. His level of focus and like persistence to be excellent is just so inspiring. Like, I feel like you walk out of that conversation, you're like, I need to be more like that guy.
Yeah, I think that's how we both felt. And there's certain conversations where you're like, I wish I didn't even have to be a part of this conversation because I literally just want to take notes and listen to this guy go on a monologue because he's just so smart and driven and hardworking and really good blueprint for just like the modern male, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally.
So we had AJ go out and then us. First solo episode.
How to eat healthy.
Very well received.
Look, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear how you're interpreting these Brett and Harry episodes. If you're enjoying them, they seem to be doing better. We just look at numbers on the screen, though. We'd love to get your feedback, so hit us up, Instagram, Twitter, or we have our Telegram group, which we're
popping off.
We got 38 members.
It's popping off.
38. But we're only going to be talking about the Telegram group on the podcast, so it's going to be listeners only, which will be sick.
Yep.
And we're trying to figure out a name for the group. So some people have been throwing out the Herd.
Oh, I like the Herd.
Which I like.
I still like the Don's Club.
I like the Don's Club too. I also like just Mafia or consiglieres. I don't know. There's a lot of things we could do with the Mafia or the family.
I like the family.
Yeah, so we'll figure it out. Whatever sticks will stick. The Herd has been getting tossed around. I like it.
I like the Herd. I like the Herd, but I like something mafioso as well.
Yeah. But hey, we're gonna let you guys decide.
We'll let it naturally develop. Yeah. And then we had this Monday, Kelsey Shar. Yeah.
Which was a powerful episode. 2 hours plus of going deep into her story. Ex-combat veteran, really getting into the mental health space, talking about her story, her qualifications of just like being able to speak to some of those topics was what stood out to me. Just someone who's been through that experience of serving overseas and then coming back and having to reacclimate and assimilate back into everyday life. And given the world that we're in today, it was just interesting getting her perspective on mental health in general. And some of the things that she's doing just to focus on and prioritize mental health. So I thought it was a great conversation. Really enjoyed her perspective on things.
Yeah, it's amazing when you see someone that's been exposed to extreme darkness and they still make that conscious decision to show up and figure out what they need to do to repair themselves to become a productive member of society.
Yeah.
She personally went through that, incredibly inspiring and humbling story. And then, works with a ton of veterans around the country to try and help facilitate those same experiences to help kind of pull them out of the darkness, with what they've seen deploying and facing nature, facing hell on earth and choosing to overcome that and become better. So it was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some of those just like practical piece of advice too. I mean, we probably sound like a broken record at this point, but it's just like a lot of the basics of physical health. I think that we have this capacity to want to like split mental health and physical health into two different worlds, but they're one and the same in a lot of ways. So like the way you treat your body is going to be like, it's going to flow through to how your mind is operating.
Yes.
So I do think that it's all about the basics. She talked about sleep quality, eating the right foods,
cold therapy.
Cold therapy. It's all additive and does can have a compounding effect on mental health. So great episode. Go check that out if you're listening to this.
Awesome. All right, let's dig into sourcing food.
Sourcing food. Yeah. So with this episode, we kind of broke this down into 3 categories. Actually, I'll say 4, but we don't really. The 4th category is one that we don't have much experience with. So the first is grocery store. The next is online/delivery services. And then the next is farm/farmers market. So kind of like the 3 main areas where most people are getting their food. And then the 4th is hunting. So I just figured we'd throw that in there. We don't really.
Not qualified to talk on number 4
literally not qualified at all, but we'll get there.
We'll still touch on it.
Yeah.
Why was it important for you? Like, why is sourcing food so important when it comes to your health?
For me, it's much more about a little bit about like the meta around food. The part that's like, if you spend time doing like the right things in terms of sourcing the food, you're actually going to care about the quality and the ingredients, and you're going to do the work, and you're going to hold this food that you're putting into your body in a different light than someone who's just like, like I don't spend any time on thinking about sourcing food. I almost feel weird saying sourcing food because you're just so used to just going and grabbing chips from 7-Eleven. So for me, it's much more about the reframe and just like how it actually positions food as a priority in your life. Therefore, you're now really just investing in food as opposed to just like passively, having it being an expense, and you're not really caring too much about where it comes from. It just shows up, and you're, the convenience factor is there, and you're not putting that additional layer of thought into why I'm doing this and why I should care about where the food is coming from. There's so many reasons why you can dig into that. But for me, it's much more just about the prioritization of food is the fundamental base layer of your health outside of, activity and getting sunlight and sleep. Food is so important. It's the habit that we're doing every single day. And so reinforcing that with just really truly showing that like I care about it. I think that's the ultimate reason for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like this, to your point, Harry, it's really this, this like sacred transaction of, number one, I think we talked about this in episode 1, having this mindset shift of what is food. It's not this ultra processed food-like substance that's kind of conditioned the American mind and flooding the grocery store. It's meat, fish, egg, fruit, vegetable, grown in nature, grown by God, single ingredient, very limited shelf life. And then you have an obligation to consistently eat those foods and find various combinations that work really well for you and share those meals and those foods with people that you love. And it's this incredibly nourishing experience. And your body has this amazing like metabolic machinery and it can process these things in such an amazing way where you just continue to cook your meals and source your foods really well. And you look back in 30 days and you're like, wow, I'm down 20 pounds of body fat. My mindset feels amazing. My energy feels amazing. My skin feels amazing. I'm getting great workouts. I feel like I have more energy to do my job. You fundamentally transform as a person. And part of why this episode is so important is like, I think you and I both believe that if you don't take the time to source your food and cook your own meals, it's very, very difficult to get healthy.
Definitely.
Right? And the reason why is when you're ordering food out, there are only so many variables that you can control, right? Like you could go to some local restaurant and be like, I'm going to get the steak and the broccoli. So from a macronutrient perspective, seems healthy enough. You have no idea what type of seasonings or additives they're adding to the food. You have basically no control over what seed oil or vegetable oil they're cooking it in. and it's really difficult to be healthy. But when you take autonomy over the foods that you're putting into your system and you're saying, look, I'm going to just cook all my meals, you can control every single input, which is going to help you get so much healthier faster.
Yeah, it's really this game of like, you know, taking ownership of your health and being the CEO of your own health. We talk about that concept a lot, but it's as simple as being the person who's going to go out and have the conversations with the person who's raising your food and shortening that gap between the person who raises your food and how it gets to your table. So just like closing the distance, you know, making it so that it's only one other person that you have to interact with. It's not going from the farm to some factory to some grocery store to, you know, like there's so many steps and we've grown so distant between how we get our food and how it actually ends up on our table that I think that the knowledge gap that ends up being filled into that space becomes massive. Like the more distance that we create between our food, we just kind of grow less and less appreciative and less concerned. And I think that's kind of the big issue is like we've created this distance between food that really was never there or intended to be there. And a lot of people talk about like the industrialization of food. It's just separating us from the process of finding food for ourselves. And the more and more distance that's created there, I think that's how these negative health outcomes happen. Like we don't understand what food is anymore in a lot of ways. Like we just think that since it's at a grocery store, it's food. That's wrong.
Yeah. Dude, you just said so many good things. It's like, I was just thinking about this, how your health is truly a reflection of the autonomy that you take over that process. And you can be this bystander to that process and order your food on DoorDash where they're, like you said, there's 25 different touch points from the slaughterhouse in Brazil to the time it hits your plate from DoorDash. Or you can actually be the owner of your own health and the architect and, you know, seek out a great farmer or potentially go hunting or prioritize your food super well at the grocery store and take the time to prepare those meals. That's what health really is. We wrote about this a couple weeks ago. We called the piece the Energy Flywheel. And the theory was that the more energy you put in, the more energy you get out of the process. It's like, it seems very counterintuitive, but it's the same feeling of going for a morning run in the morning, and then you feel like you have more energy, even though you were burning calories and depleting yourself, you get the rush. And the same thing is with your food is like, if you go out and spend more money, spend more energy, spend more time, you're going to benefit from all these incredible things that you're putting into your body as a source of your effort. So the effort that you put in with your food results in the effort that you get in your body.
Yeah, it's biblical. It's like the more you give, the more you get back in theory, right? Like, and I think that that's true with how you approach getting your food. Like, you know, the more energy and time that you put into it, the more benefits you get in return.
Yes. And I love for this episode, you put together these awesome, like almost 4 layers of your journey, which is actually like the 4 layers that we've gone on outside of the hunting. We still need to check that one off. I mean, you have gone on hunt. I haven't.
It doesn't count. Did not pull the trigger.
So you have level 1, which is grocery store, which is the most relatable. It's the best entry point for people looking to get their health in order.
Totally.
Phase 2 is like finding a D2C, like a meat shipping company. Or phase 3 is like farmer's market, finding a local rancher.
Farmer's market,
and then phase 4 is then actually hunting and procuring your own food directly from nature.
Which is like a PhD in food sourcing that we're still in the process of getting. One of the things too that I wanted to say before we get into this, it's so fascinating to me how advanced we are technologically, where it forces our, like, in some ways, we are not consciously making decisions. And we have this capacity right now to leverage technology in the most massive way possible, where you could, in theory, order directly from a regenerative farm, like up the street or like nearby, order online, and they deliver it to your door. And like that technological advancement, I think, will continue to grow. But for a lot of people, they don't even realize that these resources are out there. And I just think becoming more aware and more conscious of the decisions that we're making in terms of how we're going about getting our food is huge. And if you are leveraging this technology that we have available to us, you can become a completely different version of yourself just based on like the food that we're able to have access to. Like, you no longer have to know how to shoot a gun or like shoot a spear
Yeah.
in order to get really high quality food.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that is obviously a huge step in the right direction. And now if more people will kind of like take those steps to leveraging the technology that we have, like you can have access to the most nutrient dense foods, you know, possible.
100%. I couldn't agree more. So when we're talking about phase one, which is actually the supermarket, what are the big things that you think people should know about sourcing food from the supermarket? Because that's how you and I both started when we decided to get our health in line and start going carnivore and animal based and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I would say the good thing about, like, I think the grocery store is an amazing step for a lot of people, because a lot of people right now are just like ordering out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They're Uber Eating, or they're just like getting fast food to go. And a lot of times that food isn't all that healthy for you. So like going to the grocery store is basically you making the decision to be like, I'm going to get food so that I cook these meals. And I think, you know, you're winning if you're making that step. So like, congrats. I think that's huge. For me, when I first started going to the grocery store and starting to commit to cooking more of my meals, I was going down the keto rabbit hole at the time. So I was really focused on just finding really high quality protein sources. But my framework now would be just like, the shorter the shelf life, the better it is for you. So go find the foods that are fresh and that are going to expire at some point, and just focus on eating those. And a lot of times we talk about this. It's the outer aisle of the grocery store. It's like the cliche saying, shop on the outer aisles of the grocery store. I think you could probably like just fully eliminate the things that are on the inner aisle of the grocery store by and large, and just focus on the fruits, the meat section. And I mean, outside of that, like if you're looking for, you know, more things, more direction in the grocery store, like I would really just like encourage people to go in with like a handful of recipes that you're excited about cooking that week that are like animal based, and, you know, just go with a list of like 10 ingredients and try to figure out a few different recipes to cook with those. So you know, I would approach it from the outer aisles and just try to eliminate those inner aisles.
This is like a fundamentally super important part of what you're talking about with just your nutrition journey in general. And I remember the first time I heard about a carnivore diet, and I was getting really intentional about going to the grocery store and buying my own food. I remember going to the Whole Foods in the Upper East Side of New York and just like walking around the entire store and walking the outer aisles, walking the inner aisles, and just like reading labels and just being shocked at how long the shelf life was for a lot of these products, and how many ingredients there were, and industrial additives and refined sugars and seed oils. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, the grocery store is more of a labyrinth than it is a grocery store, where it's like, if you don't know how to navigate the labyrinth and you end up in the inner aisles, it's just 30,000 different items of just industrial sludge that's going to destroy your health. But then if you know how to navigate the labyrinth properly and stick to the outer aisles where the real foods are, it's like, dude, it's the most empowering, incredible feeling. Totally. And to your point, it's like, what you should be looking for is if the food can't die or it doesn't have an expiration of 2 weeks, it's probably not real food. That's not food. Yeah. Right.
It's like, don't put it in your body.
Yeah.
You know, it's objectively not food. Like, it might serve as like a bridge.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's not real sustenance.
Yeah. One ingredient or less. And like you said, outer aisle, real food. So there's going to be a butcher's counter where you can load up on red meat, chicken, pork. There's going to be fish. There's going to, you know, oysters, salmon, yogurt, butter. I'm trying to think what else in the outer aisle. Fruits, vegetables, like you said. And then really, if you're going to go to the inner aisle where all the industrial crap lies, you just need to be strategic. So water's in the inner aisle. Spices are in the inner aisle. Coffee is in the inner aisle if you drink coffee. Pickled vegetables can be in the inner aisle, and then like bone broth, and then you know, seed oil free condiments. I think those 6 things are why you're going into the inner aisle. And then if you don't need those 6 things, you are living in the outer aisle.
Yeah. The only thing I could possibly think to add, and this is just on the point about like the expiration date, but the fact that like a lot of these processed foods just have like an insane shelf life. It's like, if in nature, if it's not on the vine, it's dying. Within 24 hours, it's probably not going to be able to be consumed. So just like have that in your mind when you're walking through the grocery store. Like you want foods that are fresh, that are going to have life to them, that were alive at some point. Like that really is a great frame.
Yeah, I think the grocery store can take you like 80 or 90% of the way there. Like,
Totally.
as we talk through these other phases, like there definitely are levels to this. But when I went carnivore in 2019, I've talked about this extensively. I could only afford the budget cuts of meat at the outer aisle of the grocery store. And guess what? That cured my symptoms. It got me off all the drugs and meds, eating cheap grocery store meat, because the cheap meat was still way better than any of the crap and the alcohol that I was drinking prior to myself getting sick. And I live and die by that. So I think the grocery store is really phase one. And there's nuance too, right? It's like some of the downsides of the grocery store are it's really tough to verify whether meat is grass-fed versus grass-finished versus grain-finished. It's tough to tell if chicken is actually pasture-raised and non-corn and soy fed. You know, it can be difficult to truly verify whether fish is wild-caught or not. It's tough to tell if eggs are actually pasture-raised too. So the issue is, like with the grocery store, you are still disconnected. You're a few steps removed from your rancher. So it's very tough to verify the sourcing of your meat. So
Definitely.
Unless there are some Whole Foods and brands that will carry like Force of Nature, right? So Force of Nature is grass finished. There are a few grocery stores in California that carry Pasture Bird, which is actually pasture raised corn and soy free chicken. But unless you know of those brands, it's very tough to verify the sourcing and ask questions about the meat themselves. So like the macronutrients are very good, but in terms of like regenerative practices, maximizing your micronutrients from the meat, it's very difficult to verify unless it's like a super high-end grocery store that's probably super local and independent, not a chain.
Totally. I appreciate the call out on the practical nature of just the grocery store. And we were actually having a really good conversation in the Telegram group with Peter and Brett in the Telegram group, talking about just being more practical and trying to have conversations that are relatable to people.
Yeah.
And the grocery store, like, you can win the game in the grocery store. You don't need to do the next level stuff necessarily if you're really focused on your health, and I think you can give yourself grace and time to like evolve into certain levels of this. But the grocery store is where you can make serious change. And if you're trying to do these things in an affordable way, I think a lot of times you're going to be paying less if you end up going to the grocery store, if you're avoiding the inner aisles.
Definitely.
You know? So
definitely. This could be controversial, but I think if there's someone that's listening to this that's just looking to get consistent on their health journey, do not worry about organic. Do not worry about labels. Like, literally, I would just make your list of approved foods that you enjoy eating for the week. And we'll get into that, whether it's, meat, fish, eggs, fruits, vegetables, dairy, etc., and just prioritize your shopping cart being filled with those items, and just do that for like a month and then come back to me. Like, don't worry about the sourcing as much as just the right foods, and then the sourcing can come in terms of like phase 2, phase 3, phase 4.
Yeah, I like that. I think it needs to be said. Like, it's the good, better, best model that Ann and Weldon talk about, where it's like, just start off with getting the right habits formed around like the what's.
Yes.
Like, what should I be consuming?
Yes. And just a quick practical tip on grocery shopping in general. If I'm going to the grocery store, if I'm not sourcing stuff from like a local farmer or shipping beef online, whatever, I like to do 2 trips a week. I like to chunk it up into 2 trips, a Sunday and a Wednesday trip. I think we might have talked about this in the first episode.
Yep.
And what I've calculated is that I'm around 200 pounds. So I'm trying to eat a gram of protein per pound of body weight. So I'm eating about 200 grams of protein per day, which typically comes out to 2 to 3 pounds of meat. So what I'll do is, like, if I'm shopping for Sunday through Tuesday night, I've calculated how many pounds of meat I'm eating. So maybe Monday, it's like I'll do a pound of ground beef, a pound of chicken thighs, and then maybe a ribeye if I'm going to eat 3 pounds. And then I map out how much protein I need for Tuesday, and then for Wednesday as well. And then the bulk of my cart are the protein dominant meals. And then I throw in things like berries. I'll buy some grass-fed butter, some yogurt if I'm going to have some yogurt, and then I have my fix-ins. But my grocery list is based off of the animal protein, because that's primarily where I'm deriving my macronutrients and my protein from there.
Yeah.
And then I like just chunking it down into 2 trips, because I think it's a nice way to break up the week and also kind of ensure that the meat is as fresh as possible going out throughout the week.
Yeah, I like that. And I think a caveat to that could be too, if you're someone who only can make 1 trip to the grocery store, think about some dishes that, you can batch cook.
Yeah.
Like a stew or chili or some sort of roast because you could cook that up. You could probably get, something somewhere between like 6 to 8 pounds of meat cooked up for the week, and just have that be a consistent meal that you're having throughout the week. So
definitely
a little tip,
little
Harry tip there. All right.
Harry tip.
Online grocery store / delivery. What's your experience been with this sort of service?
It's a good question. I started off using ButcherBox in 2021.
Okay, dang.
No, 2020. I started using them in 2020 when COVID hit, and the stores in New Jersey were just sold out of meat. And I got a subscription to ButcherBox, and I liked it. I liked the convenience of it. I loved loading my freezer up with steaks. I will say candidly that I thought that the discrepancy in quality was very different from one box to the next, which makes me think that they're getting their stuff from a bunch of different farms. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah.
I would just find that some boxes it was delicious, and the other boxes I was like, this meat is absolutely terrible.
Rancid.
That's just fully transparent.
Yeah.
I love Perennial Pastures.
Yes.
In San Diego. They are a local farm in San Diego. Incredible guy, first generation rancher. They have a great D2C shipping business as well. So you can get ground beef, ancestral blends, steaks, tallow, etc. They are local, so sometimes they can be sold out, but a lot of and they also ship beef in bulk, which is great too.
Yeah. I love their mission.
Yeah. It's an incredible mission, amazing people, awesome farm. We've been out there multiple times, and they're one of the few ranches that is actually logistically able to ship beef in bulk. So if you want to do a smaller beef box, you can do that. But also if you want an eighth, quarter, half whole beef, they also ship that right to your front door with a chest freezer, which is pretty sweet.
Sending chest freezers across the country.
Oh, he's a maniac.
A madman.
Yes, you can get a chest freezer. White Oak Pastures also has a great service. Will Harris, one of our idols.
Yes.
They have pretty much every cut on there too. Good Ranchers is kind of like a regenerative version of Butcher's Box, where they're a meat company. They're not a rancher, but what they do is they work with local ranchers, source all the meat, and then sell it off their website.
Yep.
So they're great. I'm trying to think if I've any
Force of Nature.
Force of Nature.
Force of Nature was one that I used. I also used Force of Nature. They kind of have an aggregator model where they're sourcing from different farms.
Also a meat company. Yeah.
They're phenomenal, regeneratively raised, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. They also have bison, venison, some sausages, really high-quality stuff. They're actually also in a lot of Whole Foods now, I think.
Yes.
So love them. And then one for me that I used locally in the Northeast was Walden Local.
Yes.
They were phenomenal. I don't even know if they're still around anymore, but Walden Local was phenomenal. Trying to think. Also, a marketplace that's out there that can be for like pantry fillers, healthy pantry fillers, is Thrive Market. I like that. Like for basic stuff like honey, bone broth, some salts and spices.
Beef sticks too.
Yeah, beef sticks. Like just things that you're gonna potentially get. And if you just want to like have that on subscription, I would check out Thrive Market.
Dude, the other thing too that you're talking about is like preparation is the name of the game.
Oh yeah.
So if you can get, it kind of sounds maybe overly methodical, but that's why if you just make a food journal of the stuff you go through throughout the week, meals, snacks, how you felt, your energy levels, then you can kind of work backwards and be like, all right, these are the snacks that I like to go through. I'm going to order them off Thrive. I'm going to have them scheduled out for this day. And then you always just stay loaded up. That was one of the things we talked about in episode 1 is when you don't prepare, that's when you're so susceptible to getting off the path.
Totally.
And when you have your freezer and your fridge and your office filled with these incredible snacks that are actually nutrient dense and good for you while also being delicious, that's really how you stay on the path.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel I have this like interesting take on the preparedness part where I want to give people the feeling of like empowering them to be prepared, but also like not having that guilty pressure where like if you mess up, then you're like immediately off the path, off the path, you know?
Yes.
Like it's like it should be you should get to the point where at first there's probably a lot of resistance to the change because you're doing the hard things that you've never done. You're trying to redesign how your habits are formed currently, but then at a certain point it should just be like more fun and flowy than it is like rigid and I need to do these things in order to have some success when it comes to being healthy. It's like, well, maybe just like prioritize at the beginning just the things you like to eat that are healthy and start there. Like, and give yourself a little bit of bandwidth to grow into being healthier.
No, it's a good point. to not be overly robotic and overly methodical. And I also think there's this element of you need to know yourself and your emotional relationship with food, which is what you talked extensively about in episode 1. And I think partially in the beginning, when you're building out this metabolic machinery and you don't know what to do, you need to be strict and dialed in, which is why like having this stuff ordered and delivered to your door is great. And then also like I think over time, a lot of people trend more towards the 80-20 principle of 80% meals being good, 20% being kind of off the path. And they're great. But I know my emotional relationship with food is like when I open up the floodgates, it's typically not one meal. It leads into a few days of bad eating. So for me, when I'm dialed in, it's like I kind of just draw that line in the sand. Yep. But again, it comes down to what is your own relationship with some of this stuff? What kind of person are you? What type of an emotional eater are you?
That discipline is freedom at the end of the day, too.
Discipline is freedom.
You do have to have a certain level of discipline.
Yes. So Love Thrive Market, Perennial Pastures, White Oak Pastures, Walden Local Meats, Force of Nature. There's so many good options online now. There's this generation, this new wave of ranchers that went from serving the local community to now being able to logistically ship beef online. So shipping beef is great if, you don't want the energy output of going out to find a local farm, or hey, you're like, look, I don't really like ground beef. I don't need to buy a cow in full, but I like steaks and I can just have a steak box delivered. So like you can have some of these subscriptions set up where you go through a box of meat a week. Maybe it's like 6 ribeyes, 4 strips, 5 pounds of ground beef for a week. You can just have that auto delivered to your door at your cadence. It's like very customizable and clean.
Yeah.
So I think that's the benefit of D2C is just convenience and customization to like the type of meat consumption that you have.
Definitely. And I think that these business models are very hard to operate. So I feel very good spending my money with supporting these guys who are trying to make this, they're trying to replace the convenience factor of grocery store shopping with, cutting out the middleman and being able to provide this sustenance directly to your door.
Definitely.
So I love supporting these guys. 2 other things I want to say. Strong Sisters, who are on our podcast, they have a company called Nourish, and it's a co-op. So you can order eggs and other great, locally sourced, fresh food directly from them. So I would check that out too. They're awesome. And I just believe in their mission as well. And then the other resources. So eatwild.com is one that we talk about all the time. If you're not resonating with any of the brands that we're throwing out there now, just go to eatwild.com and you'll be able to find some D2C farm or some farm that you might be able to deliver from. And this is a good transition into the next section, which is finding a farm and farmer's market.
This is level 3.
Yeah, this is level 3. We're taking the stairs up to this is what, not PhD, this is grad school.
Yeah, it's you know what it is? It's almost like farmer's market is level 2.5 and then local farm is level 3.
Definitely. Yeah. Because farmer's market, there's people. The one thing that people need to be aware of about farmers markets is like there's a lot of people there who have insanely good intentions. And then you can like be at a farmer's market and buy beef from the grocery store and resell it. Yeah. Unfortunately.
That's what a lot of people don't realize is like there can, even though you're getting that direct touch point, there could still be some of that greenwashing that's going on. Definitely. But at least you have the opportunity to verify.
Definitely. And I think if you're looking someone in the eyes and getting to talk and ask questions to the farmer directly and, you see and are able to hear him or her tell the story around their farm. Yeah. That's a good layer of, sussing out and getting trust and getting the credentials of the person raising your food. Like speaking to them in person is a very great way to suss out whether or not it's high quality food or not.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest things you and I have believed in over this, decade-long health journey is just being able to build a relationship with your local rancher is one of the best investments you could possibly make in terms of the way you spend your money, your health, the food product you're getting, the system you're choosing to support. And the reason why a farmer's market is great is if you don't really know where to find a local rancher, literally, I promise you, if you just take your zip code and just say, go on Google and say local farmer's market near me with the zip code, I guarantee you could find a farmer's market 10 to 15 minutes away, no matter where you are in the country. Yep. And the farmer's market is just aggregating all these local ranchers and farmers. So when I moved to San Diego 2 years ago, I went to the farmer's market downtown, and that's actually how I found Perennial Pastures, because they were showing up at the farmer's market every Sunday. I got to meet, I first met one of Kev's employees, then I met Kev, and I could just ask him all the questions that I wanted around like do you vaccinate? Is your cattle grass finished? What type of cows do you use? Do you ever supplement with grain? Are they pasture raised? And then you just get to verify and try the meat and build that relationship. And that's the benefit of a farmer's market, is you're just putting all those people in the area in one central location, and then you can vet and build your relationships and choose who you want to source your food from.
Yeah, I love that. Also, I just wanted to mention this. We have a discount code for perennial pastures, which people can use. One of the benefits of having the show, and one of the things that we love, is the fact that we're able to provide resources to the listeners, and they can get some level of discount off of it. So
definitely,
if you guys resonate with what they're doing at Perennial, go check them out. I think it's code Meat Mafia.
Code Meat Mafia.
Yeah, so check it out.
For a nice percentage off the order.
Yeah.
And it's just a core relationship, because like we were saying, we've ordered from them when I was in San Diego, and I've worked with them for the last like 2 to 3 years. And it's just really special what they're doing. But yeah, literally met them at the farmer's market. And to your point, maybe you go to the farmer's market, you find a great ranch, you just build that relationship, go direct to them. But if you're still like, where do I find a local rancher? Eatwild.com is an amazing website, because there's thousands and thousands of ranches on there where you can search for the exact product that you want. Maybe it's meat, maybe it's pasture-raised eggs, maybe it's raw milk, etc. Pop your zip code in, pop your state in, and it'll show you a bunch of ranches. Totally. Also the Beef Initiative too, which is an organization that we love, that we've been connected with for a long time. They're super passionate about connecting you with your local rancher as well. So they have about 200 plus verified ranchers by state that are doing things the right way. So if you go to the Beef Initiative as well, you can search for local ranchers in your area too, and they're doing amazing work.
I love it. Just in terms of connecting with a farm or going to the farmer's market, what do you think some like core questions people should be asking their farmer? You just ran through a few, but I think like having like the top two to three things to ask your farmer just as you get to know them a little bit better.
Yeah, I think you're just kind of looking for transparency and like your ability to trust them. So I'm not going to tell you if you should prioritize like grass finished meat or grain finished meat, but I think you should be able to just ask the rancher the question, like, do you guys supplement with grains? Do you finish them on grains? Do you finish them on grass? And be able to trust that you're giving you an honest answer.
Yeah.
Like, I care way more about you connecting with a local rancher, even if it's grain finished, versus like just blanket grass fed meat that might be greenwashed from somewhere else, you know?
Right.
So I think, getting an honest answer, I think maybe asking them if they would be open to you coming out to the farm. I think that's always a great indication if the farmer or the rancher is proactive about like, hey, we do monthly events out here. Hey, you can come do a farm tour or whatever. I think that's a great aspect to transparency. I think just asking them about like the actual conditions of their animals and how much time are they spending out in pasture, and, do they implement regenerative practices? I think those are all just like good things to know.
Yeah.
What else am I missing?
Yeah, I really like the way that you put that. I don't know if I have much to add. Like just getting the transparency is the most important part, man. Like understanding, and if you get the sense that someone's trying to like hide or withhold information from you, that's probably not someone you want to be having a relationship with. So, for me, it's much more about just getting the right information that, what they're doing is what they say they're doing. And, I think one of the ways to do that is asking if you can go on a farm tour or come check out the farm. Like that's a very easy way. That's a very common question that we've heard from several people. A lot of ranchers just say, hey, ask them if you can go onto their farm and see what their operation looks like. Because anyone who has anything to hide is going to say, no, you can't come to the farm.
Definitely.
So
definitely. And when it's the right rancher, I mean, these ranchers are literally the coolest, best people. They're so passionate about feeding their local community.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we love talking about this, because we went through this mindset shift of just, hey, we're penny pinching. I need to go buy the cheap budget meat in the outer aisle of the grocery store, which was like a great phase one. And then phase two is, no, I want to take my hard-earned money and give it to this amazing person that's working so freaking hard to grow meat and raise real food the right way in a countercultural way to this industrial Franken industry that the entire U.S. has been swept up by. It's like these people are so countercultural. They're so passionate about making their local community healthy. And it's like this sacred transaction where like the Beef Initiative talks about, you shake their hand, you have a personal relationship with them, they know the exact cuts of meat that you want. They're giving you discount. They're hooking it up. you're sending your friends and family over there. It's like this amazing, it's just this amazing sacred relationship that we shouldn't take for granted. And that's how it used to be. It used to be customer, processor, rancher. And now it's like 35 different touch points from industrial slaughterhouse until the meat ever hits your plate. And that's not natural.
Yeah. Yeah. It made me think, you're making me think of our conversation the other day with Kareem that we had.
Gosh.
Which, you know, this episode will be released before the episode with Kareem. But for anyone who doesn't know, Kareem is the founder of KG Barbecue, which is this insane barbecue place here in Austin, Texas. Egyptian, true art. So it's Egyptian fusion or Egyptian barbecue infused with, sorry, I'm saying this backwards.
No.
Texas barbecue infused with Egyptian flavor. And dude,
so good.
It's so good. But his story is insane. And he was just talking about this artful, like the art behind food preparation and how much energy and focus and determination and just like all these skills that he'd acquired over the course of his life were going into this one endeavor, which is to create this amazing fusion of food. And it took a lot of failure and a lot of iterations to get to that point. But then he has this art at the end of the day. And I think that the same can be said around raising high quality food.
Yeah.
Like these regenerative farmers that we've met. When I think about people like that we've gone out to talk to, it's like Will Harris, Jason Rick, these regenerative farmers, Joel Salatin,
Kevin
Munoz. It's like you see how they're approaching food production and the interconnection of these different worlds where they have chickens playing a specific role, turkeys playing a specific role, pigs playing a specific role, cows playing a specific role on the farm. Like they're orchestrating this amazing natural process, and there's so much art infused into it. And there's, obviously a lot of science infused into it, but it's artistic the way that they're piecing these things together. And then you contrast that with the industrial system. There's such a contrast between the godlessness in the industrial system where you're pulling out all of the interconnectedness, and it's just very A to B, very mechanistic in the way that the relationships are formed in the food system. And then you have this interwoven, interconnected system that's a regenerative system, and it's art. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that when you look at things in that way, you can almost view like the health outcomes that come from those two systems. It's like that farmer's putting so much time, attention, love into what he's doing. If you're eating that quality food, that type of food, you're going to be getting the benefits of all of that effort and all that attention.
Definitely. And I think one of the debates was always like, okay, well, how much more nutrient dense is grass-finished meat versus grain-finished meat? And this topic is still highly contentious.
Yeah, highly debated.
The cool part about this is that there are people like Stefan Van Vliet out of Utah State that are actually doing studies on regenerative meat, and they're quantifying the micronutrients of grass-finished meat versus grain-finished meat. And I'm not here to tell you what you should or shouldn't prioritize, because I think if where you're at is going to the grocery store and buying the grain-fed ribeyes and you're going to prioritize that over the industrial stuff, like keep going, keep crushing it. You're going to get into amazing shape. That's what I did when I started off. It worked super well for me. And where I've evolved to is if I have the opportunity to be able to connect with a rancher and buy a grass-finished regenerative product, I personally feel like I process and digest that food better, and my energy just feels elevated. Whether that's a placebo or not, that's just how I feel, and that's what I'm going to choose to prioritize. And there's also this intangible thing that you hinted at of just supporting the right system. Like, I don't want my money to go to some massive industrial farm that's getting their stuff from Brazil. They're slapping a U.S. label on it. They're breaking the back of the American farmer. I'd rather give my dollar to the American farmer as well.
Totally.
And you're willing to pay a premium, and you will pay a premium for that, but you will be supporting the right system, and you will be inheriting more micronutrients from the meat as well. So you're actually getting more for what your dollar is paying.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like getting the right gym membership too. Like if you're paying $1 to go to the gym, odds are you don't value that gym membership all that much. So when you're talking about your health, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I value my health higher than like anything outside of like, my family and personal relationships. But it's like, the things that you value, you should prescribe like the appropriate, attention and value to it.
Yes.
And, be willing to pay that price. And I know obviously it's easier said than done. And, you know, we all have our own constraints around money that exist, but there's nothing better than investing in something that's going to give you more and more energy and continue to have a compounding positive effect on your life.
Definitely. And once you've experienced these foods, it just comes down to like, this is now just what you do. You're like, look, if my food is 25% of my total budget or 30%, like I'm going to pay this because I feel so damn good.
Totally.
For me, paying 30% of my budget on high quality food is a lot cheaper than paying $400,000 worth of Remicade every single year like I was on for 6+ years. So don't convince me that it's more expensive because I know it's not. And I've just accepted the fact that like my entire family, my future family, my unborn kids, my future wife, like we will be eating like this forever. And if I have issues from a budgetary perspective, I better make some more money to be able to afford my kids to do that. And I think people should have more of that mindset.
Yeah. And yeah, that was a mic drop. So I don't even know. I don't even know if I can say anything after that.
It's the espresso.
Yeah. Are you still at a 5 or have you cranked up to like a 6 or 7 at this point?
I might be at an 8.5 right now. Well, I think we both just get so excited about this stuff because it's changed our lives and a lot of our friends and family members. And like, it sounds like such a simple playbook, but just eating God-given foods and cooking your meals and sourcing them well, like that is literally 90% of the playbook to get into amazing health.
Definitely. Yeah. Like the simple stuff isn't sexy, but it's the stuff that's going to pay you dividends over and over again. Focus on the basics.
What's funny is the simple stuff isn't sexy, yet the simple stuff makes you sexy.
Yeah.
Long
like
term.
That. Oh,
it's
so can we brand that somehow?
Down. What other just like are there any other like food sourcing hacks or frameworks or like methodologies that have helped you a lot? I feel like you kind of touched on this in episode 1. I feel like you find these like unique dishes that are simple but really delicious. So like I remember in Boston when you were having a really successful like paleo kick and you were losing a bunch of weight, you like love taco salads. And you would just like perfect the taco salad.
Yeah. There's something to that. Like, yeah, I found 4 dishes that I was obsessed with making.
Yeah.
One of them was, I did like this, it was basically like an egg casserole type of thing. But I was trying to solve, the thing I was trying to solve for is very healthy and something that I could have multiple times that week. Cause I wanted to cook it once and then have a lot to just feed myself throughout the week. So I would get like a casserole dish, whip up like a full dozen eggs, throw some bacon in there, throw some cheese in there. And like, that's as easy and simple of a meal as you can. You throw it in the oven for like 20 minutes and you have this 6, like I would cut it up into 6 squares and I would probably eat like 2 at a time.
Yes.
And you're good. That's 3 meals right there.
Yeah.
Then I would do like chili or some sort of roast. And then I would do this big ass salad. Shout out Mark Sisson.
Yeah.
And that would be like 2 meals. So I would just find these ways where I would like really enjoy eating the meals and it would take me like 30 minutes to make them, but I could have 3 to 6 meals out of each thing.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to answer the right questions, make it taste good, make it affordable, make it so that I could spend as little time as possible on making the dish. And that gave me a flywheel effect because I really looked forward to cooking the food. I looked forward to eating the food. I looked forward to going to the grocery store and getting the food because I was like, all right, I'm going to try this new cut of meat or you know, see if I can make this recipe a little bit better.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of like gamification.
It is gamification. And it's to your point, it's like you basically found dishes and foods that you were excited to eat every single day. And I think that everyone has like 3 to 5 dishes where you could eat it like once a day because it's so good.
Yeah, definitely.
And you should be making notes of what those are and finding different variations of those. Like obviously a lot of people feel like this, we could eat a ribeye every single day.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of different ways that you can make a ribeye, right? It's like you could put blue cheese on it. You could put balsamic drizzle on it too. You can make it like Korean style with spices. There's all these different variations that are simple that can spice up a dish and make it taste like something very unique that gives you that like palate variety day after day.
Yeah. The one thing I'll add to that just to hit it home is try to reduce the friction as much as possible at the beginning so that you need to cross the chasm of like, I'm not someone who cooks their meals to like, I cook my meals regularly. I cook my meals regularly. So you just need to reduce the friction as much as possible and have that be the spark to like create some velocity and be the type of person who's cooking, you know, 4 or 5 times a week because you love doing it and because the process is actually enjoyable to you. And then you start getting healthier and you feel better, and it's just a compounding effect. But at the beginning, I think it's really important to, one, get started, and then two, reduce the friction as much as possible so that you actually can have some of that momentum build, because it's all about building that momentum.
It's all about momentum. And once we source those foods, I know there's certain people that live and swear by like a big meal prep block where like Sunday they meal prep for the week, or maybe they do a Sunday meal prep block, a Wednesday meal prep block. That's great. I've always just kept it simple where I either have an air fryer in the office, and if I can't prep my lunch, I will literally bring a steak or chicken into the office and just make something simple that's protein dense. I can have it ready in the air fryer in 10 minutes, or whatever I'm making for dinner, I make 2 of it and then I put it into a glass Tupperware container and then I bring it for lunch.
The air fryer. We might need to do a full episode on the air fryer, because you recently christened me in the amazingness of
it's an
air
art.
fryer. It's insane.
Dude, you have a gourmet steak ready to go in 10 minutes.
Like, this goes against basically everything we just said about the art and effort and all.
Yes.
Everything about, the process having to be a little bit more arduous, and you paying attention and putting energy and effort into this process. The air fryer is like insane.
It is
15 minutes.
It is a life-changing piece of machinery.
Yeah. Whoever invented the air fryer is a complete
wizard.
Yeah, he's a wizard.
He's
a genius.
He's a genius. He or she.
Not gonna rule it out.
The other thing too with an air fryer is you can actually throw a frozen steak in there and have it fully cooked in like 15 minutes.
Are you serious?
If you YouTube frozen steak air fryer recipe, you can literally put a frozen block of meat in there, and it will have it ready to go in like 15 or so minutes. Michaela Peterson and Chris Williamson do that. And another thing, shout out to my girlfriend Dana. She put us onto this.
A nod
news. The meat defrosting tray is a life-changing tool. Remember the first time you had that meat defrosting tray?
Yeah, it's magic. You throw a frozen block of meat on this like seemingly
it's like a black
useless
square.
Piece of metal.
Yeah, it's a piece of metal.
It's just a piece of metal.
It looks like nothing special.
It just conducts the heat out of it.
Yeah, and it will literally take a frozen piece of meat and have it ready to go in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It is a game changer.
Yeah, I was like in disbelief the first time we used that.
Yeah, literally go on Amazon, meat defrosting tray. It's going to look like a black square, and it will change your entire life.
Yeah. Should we talk about hunting here for a minute before we hop off? I know I told you we were going to get out of here at 11:15. It's 11:23. So
yeah, let's quickly talk about hunting.
Yeah, hunting.
Aspirational for both of us.
We have no qualifications to be talking about hunting.
We don't.
But this is this is the cream of the crop, the pinnacle. My younger brother is a hunter, and just the concept of him like killing a deer and being able to like give out cuts of meat to us, and he cooked me up a bunch of like ground venison after he had a kill. It's just like such an incredible process, and I think that's the next step for us, obviously, but just growing in the appreciation of where our food comes from and being able to go through the process of actually taking the animal's life that you're going to end up eating. I couldn't imagine a more sacred experience.
It's sacred. And I would say that the biggest hunters we know are also the biggest conservationists we know, and also just have the most respect for the entire process, because they're not outsourcing death to everyone. They're tracking the animal, they're finding the animal, they're killing the animal, they're butchering the animal, and then they're filling their freezer with that animal, and they're either eating it themselves or they're giving it to their family, friends, loved ones, like you said. I'm trying to think. Some of the hunting episodes we've done is Sacred Hunting with Monsell.
Yep.
Incredible episode.
Yeah. Go check out sacredhunting.com too. And
sacredhunting.com.
If you're a beginner and want to get involved, like Monsell is the man.
Yes, Monsell Denton is the man. He was an amazing guest. He told the story of him. I think did he track and kill a grizzly bear?
Yes.
Which is insane that he killed a grizzly bear.
Yeah.
He's a psychopath.
Yeah, every hunting episode that we've had, I feel like I've just been in complete disbelief about the stories that they're telling us.
It's insane.
I'm like, you tracked down a freaking bear and killed it?
Yeah. So Monsell and then Robbie Kroger from Blood Origins, one of our best episodes ever.
That guy.
He will change everything you know, even about like big game and trophy hunting. He has like just an incredible contrarian perspective on why those things are actually good and why we should be doing them, and how a lot of I think even trophy hunting like supports a lot of these third world countries and their economy and things like that. It was super interesting.
His ability to tell stories was unlike anything I've ever heard.
It was amazing.
And he's got that silky accent too.
He's a stud.
Yeah, beast.
And then Matt Schweitzer, head of revenue at Hop Dottie. Incredible hunter. He has amazing stories too.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other hunters. We're working to get Cammie Haynes on the podcast.
Our lost episode.
Taylor, Matt's wife.
We need to
get her back on the podcast. Otherwise, we're soy boys.
Taylor, if you're listening to this, and I know you're not,
we recorded an amazing episode with Matt's wife, Taylor, who is an all-around American badass patriot hunter, works at Staccato Pistol Company, former FBI agent, the most passionate American you'll ever meet. She's just an incredible human. Ripped a great episode with her, and we just completely lost the footage. So we will have Taylor back on the podcast.
We need to make that happen. She is so cool.
Yes.
Yeah,
and she could kick both of our asses too, easily.
Literally.
All right. So how to source food. Yeah. We've got 4 phases, right? Grocery store. We've got D2C meat company, online market like Thrive Market, find your local farmer's market, eatwild.com, find a local rancher, and then hunting.
Yeah. Yeah, and our goal with this episode is for you to never order Uber Eats again.
Yeah. Do not. You are sexier than Uber Eats.
You're better than that.
You're better than Uber Eats.
Just say that to yourself.
So the next time you're thinking about getting Chipotle delivered to your front door, you're going to hear our voices in your head.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. You're better than that. But yeah, I mean, this has been one of our biggest unlocks ever. So I hope that everyone just digests this and really takes it into account. And if you do this for 30 days, you will fundamentally transform as a person.
Yes. And if you are looking for a little bit more information on this episode, we have our ebook or e-guide, really. It's a couple pages that will give you all this information, all these resources. We'll expand on some of these topics a bit more. Go check that out. It's in the show notes. And then also on top of that, we have the newsletter, Food for Thought newsletter. We take deep dives into all the different things that we just talked about. We're trying to bring the most relevant information to the table that will get you healthier. So go check out our newsletter. It's a Food for Thought newsletter. It's in the link in the bio. And yeah, also join the Telegram group. It's getting fun. So yeah, that's all I got.
Love it. Appreciate you, brother. Great episode.
Yeah, appreciate you.
You're the man.
Later.
See ya.